We go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a discussion with Amy Jones and I. Hello, Amy, first.
Hi, everybody. Nice to be back.
Yes, nice to see you again. It's been a little while. Amy and I have thought about this topic for a little while, and it's something we haven't done in depth like we're going to do today. Firstly, what is love addiction and how to heal from it? Also, what is codependency and how to heal from it? Now, many of you have probably heard these terms, but do you actually know what it is and how to get into a place where you leave that behind so that you can enjoy loving relationships, whether it's at work, with a romantic relationship, with your family? These types of love addiction and codependency, these types of, let's say, conditions are what we see in all our relationships, and they affect us every single day. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to read a little bit to you so you get some clarity about what love addiction is, what codependency is, and then Amy and I are going to discuss it, as in what we see in the work that we do and also how to focus your way out. So firstly, Amy, let's have a chat about what love addiction is. I'm just going to read a little bit so that the viewers can get clear about where we are going with this. Love addiction is a behavior and emotional condition where a person becomes obsessed with the idea of love, romance, or relationships to the point that it interferes with their daily life, their self-esteem, or well-being. It is not officially recognized as a formal psychiatric disorder in major diagnostic manuals. However, it is considered a form of relationship or behavioral addiction by many therapists and recovery professionals. Now, key characteristics of love addiction: obsessive thoughts about a partner or love interest, constant need for attention, validation, or affection, fear of being alone or abandoned, staying in unhealthy or abusive relationships, mistaking intensity, as in drama and chaos, for intimacy, rebounding quickly into new relationships after breakups, and neglecting other areas of life, such as work, friendships, health, for a relationship. Now, what are the underlying causes? Childhood trauma, neglect or inconsistent caregiving, low self-worth or identity issues, attachment disorders, especially anxious attachment, unmet emotional needs, or unresolved past relationships. Now, common patterns: idealizing partners early, putting them on a pedestal, ignoring red flags or excusing toxic behavior, extreme emotional highs and lows in relationships, and withdrawal symptoms like depression or anxiety when not in a relationship. Now, there's two very specific types of love: healthy love, love addiction. In the healthy love category, it's based on mutual respect and trust. It grows over time. It can tolerate distance and independence, and it fulfills and supports life. In the love addiction column, it's based on need, fear, or fantasy. It often is intense and very fast moving. It feels desperate or panicked without a partner, and it becomes the center of life, often at a cost. Now, there are, before I get Amy to have her bit to add to this, another little bit about treatment options, therapy, especially trauma-informed or attached-focused therapy, 12-step groups like Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, which you can find all around the world, and cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and mindfulness and self-compassion practices, learning to set boundaries and build self-esteem. And that is it. So, Amy, off we go. What do you want to say?
Well, I think people that have followed me for a while will know that I do coach attachment styles, and I do help anxious attachers kind of break the cycle of these kind of relationships. But there's two things really that you mentioned that really come up an awful lot, and that is inconsistent childhood. And this is exactly what happened to me, where I had parents that were sometimes available and sometimes not. And it caused a addiction in me, not just for love, but for validation, for comfort, because when I was younger, it was there one day and not the next. And when you grow up in a secure household where all your needs are met, you don't develop these toxic dynamics, these trauma bonded relationships, because you have a solid sense of yourself. So essentially, codependency and love addiction comes from a lack of sense of self, that your identity is wrapped up in a relationship. And the second thing that you mentioned, which I find an awful lot in clients, and also I did this as well, is the fantasy. So what I would do is go into my imagination a lot and go into fantasy land a lot and not really see what was in front of me or make excuses for what was in front of me. So just to give you an example, my ex-partner was a dismissive avoidant attachment style. I was anxious attached, but this person told me who he was within the first 3 times I met him. But the alarm bells just didn't go off because I'd idealized in my head already what that I would, what the type of relationship I wanted, and I completely projected that onto him and really made excuses for poor behavior and really made excuses for, things like standing me up, for example. Things that now, I would automatically know that that's totally unacceptable or any type of disrespect is, but I just ignored it because I didn't want to look at it because I thought, no, this isn't what's in my head. And I ignored it. But really it's because I had a gaping abandonment wound that I just didn't want to look at. And it was, a temporary fix. The same as any other addiction. I was addicted to the relationship, not necessarily him, just the relationship, really. Because I was sort of trying to escape this horrible feeling that I had underlying all of the time. And I didn't want to lose him. And I remember when, this is going back years ago, when he ended the relationship with me, and I felt like my oxygen had gone. I couldn't get out of bed. I could not function properly without this person. And even when I was with that person, a lot of my attention was focused on what he needed, what he thought, what he wanted, what's he doing. And it was almost trying to sort of micromanage the relationship so that I wouldn't be on my own. And I find this an awful lot in clients who 99% of the time they come to me because they've been through a horrible breakup and they want to know how to get the relationship back. But when we've actually delved a bit as to why you would want to go back into that dynamic again, most of the time it's because they have a belief that it's actually better to be in this dynamic than to be on my own.
Yeah.
And I think that was what really was underlying it, that it was better to stay in this relationship where I was never really happy, never really feeling very safe or very grounded in the relationship, but it was better than being on my own. And I think a lot of people that are in, the love addicts and codependents anonymous, for example, are similarly going through that cycle. But obviously, if you're in those groups, you're breaking free of it. But yeah, so that's my experience on what love addiction actually is and what it's like to live that every single day, where the first thing you think about when you wake up is them.
Yes.
Not even in like a nice romantic way, it's more of a panic.
Yep.
And it's the hyper focus on things, especially when things are going wrong. If you're in a period of conflict, for example, oh my gosh, it's just horrible.
Yeah.
But then on the other side of it, because you are addicted to relationships or addicted to love, or you need it, you're more likely to stay in these horrible dynamics as well, because the pain of being on your own just isn't worth thinking about. So you find that people stay in these dynamics a lot longer than perhaps a secure person would. But because of that underlying need, you kind of attract people that are going to take advantage of that. You're going to attract people that are going to take advantage of how much you give and
Yes.
how agreeable you are, or
Yeah.
how easygoing you might be because you go along with everything that they want because you don't want to rock the boat. And having come out of that dynamic, though, for a long time now, I'm here to say that it absolutely isn't the worst thing in the world being on your own. It's not this horrible
Yeah.
thing, but I understand it because, well, I was
Yes.
with my ex-partner. If somebody said to me, Amy, you'd be much better on your own, I'd be like, no way, no,
Yes.
I can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it is such a, well, in the, let's say, law of attraction land, this is often a topic that's not talked about because people want to manifest what they want in a relationship. Often it is an ex or a, specific person. I mean, this is a topic that we are surrounded by all the time. And it really is about doing the inner work. And I know when I look back, because you and I have talked about this a few times, I too was, well, let's say, self-diagnosed as a love addict. That was the very first thing I did, was go into Codependence Anonymous and Love Addicts Anonymous. And I went for, well, Codependence Anonymous I went to for longer because I found out about Love Addicts Anonymous. Well, it was Love and Sex Addicts Anonymous. For me, it wasn't a sex addiction. It was the love addiction, the abandonment, all the same stuff you just mentioned. And I went there for 20 years. Now,
Mm.
why did I go so much? Because I could hear people that were dealing with it, moving through their pain about it, somewhere to go where you could talk about it and not feel like people were judging you. Because when people don't have love addiction or they don't have codependency, they start looking at you like, why the hell is she going back to that guy? Or why
Mm.
the hell is she continuing to do that? Like it's like when people don't have abandonment, what you're doing doesn't look right to them. And it can be very, it puts you in a bit of shame when you're not around the right people. So being in these groups is incredibly helpful. And you and I have talked about the benefits of these groups, and that what's great is they're all around the world. This is not just in the UK or in Australia or in the US. These are global organizations. You can go there for free. You log into, I mean, now I've got friends that I know that do meetings online. Some you can go in person, some you can go that are in your neighborhood. And it's fantastic. It is really, I think, a wonderful stepping stone for people that want to learn the basics. And it is a spiritual transformation that you go through because you start to really look at, what have I got going on in me that this is happening and that I'm attracted to this. It is a addiction. So I know, I mean, I don't go anymore. I haven't been for a long time, but I will always remember that it's there, and I will never forget the help that it gave me and the people that I met along the way. That it is such a wonderful bonding experience. And you can get a sponsor who is further ahead than you that can help you. And all of this is done from a place of loving service. So, for people that are watching this while we're talking about it, if you really are needing it, look up Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous in your area. And we're going to talk about Codependence Anonymous too. But is there anything else you want to say about love addiction, Amy?
No.
No. Okay. Yeah, it's a fabulous, fabulous. And it is based on the 12 steps like Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, let's hop into looking at what is codependency. So I'm going to read a little bit. Amy, just jump in and interrupt me at any point. What is codependency? Codependency is a behavioral pattern where a person becomes overly reliant on another, typically in relationships for their sense of identity, self-worth, or emotional needs. It often involves putting someone else's needs ahead of your own to the point of self-neglect, and it's commonly found in relationships involving addiction, abuse, or emotional dysfunction. Now, core traits of codependency: excessive caretaking, trying to fix or rescue others, often at your own expense; poor boundaries, difficulty saying no, feeling responsible for others' emotions; low self-esteem, seeking validation or purpose through others; people pleasing, fear of rejection or abandonment drives constant approval seeking; control issues, trying to manage others' behavior or emotions to feel secure; denial of personal needs, suppressing your own desires to avoid conflict or keeping the peace; and fear of being alone, staying in unhealthy relationships to avoid abandonment. Now, the origins of codependency: growing up in a dysfunctional family with addiction, neglect, abuse, or emotional instability; having to take on adult responsibilities as a child, like emotionally supporting a parent or a sibling; learning early that on learning early on that love is conditional or that your needs come second; and codependent relationship patterns. One person is the giver and the other is the taker. The relationship becomes imbalanced, emotionally draining, or enmeshed. The codependent may stay in toxic or one-sided relationships out of guilt, fear, or a need to feel needed. Now, codependency versus the healthy interdependence. Now, in the codependency column, there is self-worth comes from others, can't say no, fear of being alone, enabling bad behavior, needs go unmet. In the healthy interdependence column, self-worth comes from within. You can set healthy boundaries, comfort with independence, and supporting without sacrificing the self, mutual support and respect. Now, the last little paragraph: healing from codependency, therapy, especially inner child trauma or family systems work, support groups like Codependence Anonymous, which is referred to as CODA, building self-esteem and learning to prioritize your needs, setting and maintaining boundaries, and learning that it's okay to say no and not be responsible for others' emotions. So, you want to throw in your bit?
Yeah, I think a lot of what's missed on the codependency one, and I don't think, I don't mean to sort of create anxiety or anything with this, but it's an underlying sense of control that's driving the behavior. But
Yeah.
I think as well, a lot of the narrative around codependency is, oh, it's the partner that's an addict and the codependent's trying to fix the partner, which is true. That does happen. But also, what I learned from my own relationship is that sometimes that need to control comes from having a partner that is out of control, if that makes sense. So it isn't that,
Yes.
you've got an addict that just needs help. You've got an addict who is out of control.
Mm.
So you sort of jump in trying to control the uncontrollable, which is exhausting,
Yeah.
so that you feel safe and stable. So I think sometimes, I mean, having been in coda myself as well, I think sometimes the narrative around codependency can be a bit blamey. Um,
Yes.
you need to stop controlling you. It almost makes codependents look like control freaks,
Yeah.
which in essence, yes, but partially because your partner's out of control. And,
Yeah.
I just wanted to sort of put that out there because that happens to a lot of people where they become codependent because they can't control their partners. But also, what really hit home for me when you were saying about inner child work and family dynamics is that, I have a mother that's quite codependent. And what my mom instilled in both me and my sister is that you don't leave no matter what.
Mm.
And so I was in a very, very long relationship with somebody who really wasn't for me because I had this belief in that we don't leave.
Yes.
What, no matter how bad it gets, no
Yeah.
matter how disrespectful they are, because I'd seen my mum put up with that,
Yeah.
still does.
Yeah.
Um, so it's really important to go back and see where it is that this codependent, because it didn't come from thin air.
That's right.
You
That's right.
haven't you haven't just
Yeah.
been implanted in you. It's
Yeah.
learned behavior.
Yeah. I think it's even, I would call it generational codependency in the lineage of our mothers and then our grandmothers and our great grandmothers and the grandfathers too. Depends on, it doesn't have to be that it's the woman that's codependent. I know there's some relationships where it's the men in the dynamic is the codependent. And I liked how they said in this little thing that one becomes the giver and one becomes the taker. And I would even add, because you and I have talked about this a lot, picking partners that are stuck at an adolescent level.
Oh yeah,
And that's where you get the taker. And then the people pleaser and the overgiver fits in with that type of person. So the more you heal your people pleasing, your overgiving, the less attractive that stuff over there that's in that person, it starts to repulse you when you get healthier. It's actually like you don't actually give anything, and I'm sitting here busting my ass to overgive to you so that you will love me because I feel because I've got a fear of abandonment.
exactly. And
Mm.
what I also found myself doing was enabling that behavior so that I felt needed.
Yes.
And it was that, that idea that if I felt needed, then he wouldn't leave me.
Mm.
The whole belief system around codependence is so you don't get left.
Yes.
And, you'll find yourself going completely against what your values are, for example, or, doing things that you're not particularly comfortable with.
Mm.
And yes, when you mean no a lot,
Yeah,
so
for
that
sure.
you can protect yourself
Yes.
fear and that initial core wound of around abandonment that you have.
Mm.
But what I also thought interesting, and there's a chap called Ross Rosenberg that does a lot around codependency, and he said wherever there's a codependent, there is an avoidant or narcissistic person because they almost need each other. So
Mhm.
everybody's getting their needs met, which is why on the outside it doesn't look dysfunctional because
Mhm.
everybody looks happy. But
Mm.
when you've got somebody who is codependent, really a selfish partner is perfect because
That's right.
it's that need to be needed and
Yes.
to, completely go against what your value system is in order to please somebody else. But it's funny when you say that the healthier you get, the less attractive it becomes, and it does. It
Mm.
really, really does. Where you think now, if I went on a date with my ex now, I wouldn't feel the attraction.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't feel like, that behavior is at all attractive. And it isn't even like at the time I was, consciously attracted to that behavior. It just felt normal.
Yes.
It just felt like familiar to me, I suppose, where oh yeah, we've had an argument and now he hasn't spoken to me for a week. And it felt
Yeah.
normal, even though I didn't like it. I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm attracted to this. I was tolerant of it, I suppose is a better word for it. I was very tolerant of it.
Yeah.
And when he sort of came back around, I didn't want to discuss it with him. I was just
Yeah.
relieved. Oh, he hasn't actually abandoned me. He's here.
Yeah.
And I don't want to talk about what's just happened because then that's going to rock the boat. And
Yeah.
realistically, I stayed because I didn't believe that I deserved anything better than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's, the whole belief system around codependency is again like we said about the love addiction, it's to protect you from that fear of abandonment completely
Yeah.
to the point where
Yeah.
you'll abandon yourself.
Completely. And you, when you do hit abandonment, I mean, I remember this and I will never forget it. When you hit that abandonment, you feel like you're going to die.
You feel like
It,
your oxygen's gone.
yeah, yeah. It is so, you can't go to work, you can't sleep, you can't eat when you have been really kicked in the major deep abandonment, not just a little one. That deep abandonment, I mean, that buckles you up, puts you in bed in a sobbing mess where you are sure you're going to die or you want to die. I mean, I remember praying to God to take me in the night. I didn't want a suicide, but I remember thinking, please just take me in the night. I cannot withstand this. It's going to kill me. I thought I was going to have a heart attack because a broken heart, when you suffer from abandonment, feels like you're going to die. And it is, as a child, that's how you felt because you had a dependency on adults meeting your needs. And if they didn't, my goodness, what the heck happens to me now? I can't survive without adults looking after me. So it brings all that back up. But what's so good, and this is the whole point of doing this video, you're not stuck with this for life. You can heal it. I don't drop into that stuff like I did then. Do I ever feel abandoned? No, I can't even. I see, just saying that to myself, I can't even remember the last time I felt that. And
Mm.
I had that so much in my relationships prior to this one. I had that in every single relationship.
Yeah.
That feeling of I want to die because, oh God, I did the wrong thing and now they don't like me. And now what if they leave permanently?
Yeah.
You
And
know?
like figuring out, how do I say this?
Yeah.
Or, can I say this in the right way that's
Yes.
not going to cause a row?
Yeah.
Then you end up waiting 3 days and then you've calmed down and then you think, well, I might as well not say it now. And
Yeah.
you build a lot of resentment, don't you? Because you
Yeah.
you learn to not
Yeah.
talk about it. And to be fair, that isn't just down to codependency. That's also down to what your personality type of your partner is. Because if your partner isn't somebody that's safe to open up to, then you're not going to.
Yes.
This is what I mean about how codependents and narcissistic types tend to, sort of go together. The narcissistic type loves having the needs met, loves having
Yep.
to focus on them, and the
Yeah.
codependent gets to not think about themselves,
That's it.
comforting, and focus solely on that. And, when I think about it now, when I was in that situation, I mean, obviously I wasn't aware of that because, I was telling myself that, I'm sure many people out there is telling themselves that it's okay, it'll get better, they'll change, I can
Mm.
fix them, I can change them, they'll change for, and all of this stuff. Until I got to the point where I couldn't ignore it
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. It comes at some point, it comes crashing down, and your need to be needed is so glaring you in the face, and you're people pleasing, and how much your health has suffered, or your work has suffered, or your relationships with family, because you've been so hyper focused on this relationship. All of a sudden, you can't escape yourself anymore. And I think that that's why those groups that we mentioned have been extremely helpful because you're often hearing your story through other people's mouths.
You are, and you can go every day if you want to.
Yeah. Yeah, you can go every
You know,
day. And sometimes, like Alcoholics Anonymous, people do go every day for a period of time until they can stabilize. And I think that, it's really getting your needs met and getting them met in the right way, not through, and it's having a voice because you're often in there with other people that have done exactly what you've done and they've ended up with a breakdown in their health because of all this over giving because of a fear of abandonment. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Fear of abandonment's got a lot to answer for, hasn't
Yes,
it?
but we've got good, let's say, information that you can recover from this. You really can recover from this. It is not something that you have to take to your deathbed, but you have to make the time and the effort to allow all the old abandonment to rise up to let it out, to move through it, and to work with, whether you work with someone like you or me, or whether you go to an inner child specialist or whatever. Some work you can do on your own, sometimes you can't. It depends on the level of trauma, on abandonment that you experienced. Some people can do it on their own and some people can't. And of course, that takes money. So it depends on your budget. But if you go to groups, the groups are free.
Yeah.
And that's a really good starting point. If you want to make a donation, you do. If you don't, you don't. There's no pressure. So I do think that offloading those emotions is such an important part of healing. And I can see now, I mean, I used to be in abandonment at least twice a week. That my abandonment would be triggered by my relationship at least twice a week. And
Yeah.
it was affecting my sleep, my eating, and my going to work at that time. And I had to stop running away from it. And I had to stop trying to, well, you get to a point where you go, what is going on with me that I'm constantly looking to someone else to love me for me to be okay? There's something not right with that. You can get away with it in your teens and maybe in your 20s, but after you've had a few relationships and you think, hang on a minute, this pattern is the same, because you can get away with going, I picked the wrong partner. I'll pick somebody else this time. That didn't work out. Let me pick someone else. But in my case, I picked the wrong thing 4 times. I was the common denominator. I couldn't make it about I've made a bad choice again. I did make a bad choice, but in a way, did I? Because each relationship brought up my abandonment. And because that happened, I had to heal it. So, and if I didn't do that, I couldn't do the work I do. So in the end, was it a bad thing? It wasn't a pleasant thing. It wasn't a fun thing, but I can see now the inner security, the inner self-love. No one can take that away from me now. So, and I hit the pain really early on. I hit it in my 20s. I didn't hit it in my 30s or my 40s. It hit me hard straight up in my 20s. I had a broken heart. The first one was at the age of 18, when I found out that when I left Canada to go to Australia, that my boyfriend of 4 years was doing the horizontal cha-cha with my best friend, and I found out about it. And that was my first experience of being absolutely gutted and abandoned. So had to deal with that. And then, there's other relationships in between. I'm not going to go through all that because I've already done lots of YouTubes about it. But there is a real, if you can see the golden jewel and the lesson within all of it, and it's like all these experiences in relationships which really make you go to that place that you don't want to go to. It is your spiritual evolution to understand that love is not over there in another person, and that generating and learning where love really comes from, so that you are no longer a puppet on a string to him or her, that I can be happy and feel loved and secure whether I'm single or with someone, but it is in my hands, not in theirs. And that is freedom. That's freedom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For anybody who's out there who is feeling like they are totally emotionally dependent on somebody else, I know that it feels like that's the way things are, or that's the way things should be, because it feels so natural to you to do that. But it doesn't have to be like that. You don't have to, continue suffering or white knuckling it through relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
survive without this person.
Yes. And the more you work on what we've been discussing, the more you feel free. And then the more you are able to have a relationship with someone in a non-codependent way, in a non-love addicted way. And then you have 2 givers in a relationship. And I can tell you, being in that relationship now, it makes the relationship so easy, so much more effortless, and it flows because you're not being drained by the relationship. The relationship is nourishing itself because 2 people are working on themselves and looking after themselves, And then that brings fertilizer to the you and them relationship. It is so different. It is so different. And I was in my 40s before I ended up with a relationship like this. It took me a long time, but I was a slow learner in regards to I need to do this work. And because every time I got a relationship where I'd get the hit from the high, I was like, screw that self-love stuff. I'm not doing that. Off I go for another year or two. Woohoo! And then bang again. And you go through that enough times, you realize there is something in you that you need to really deal with. And when you do, you are free and you feel so different to that stuff, so different. So that is possible. It's been possible for you, Amy. It's been possible for me. And it is possible for all the people that, watch our channels, that it is something that's the bright, shiny object. If you're going to have one, that's it.
Exactly.
Oh, fabulous. I love these topics.
I know. You could go on for hours.
You can. So we will put links down below for you when this gets uploaded, so you can go and check out different topics, different videos, so that you can get some extra information and really just check it out for yourself. If you're in these relationships and you're suffering and you're in pain, you don't need to stay there. It is possible to focus your way out. So, Amy, you want to say any last words?
Just thank you for having me again.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. And you and I will say, do you want to say bye? And then we'll say bye in private.
Yes, thank you for watching, everybody. And yes, I'm wishing you well on your journey.
Yes, me too. And I will put Amy's channel and links down below so you can go and find her because she's good. Lots of love, everyone.
Bye.
See you again soon.